What's going on, everyone? My name is Chris. Today we're going to be unboxing the Xiaomi Mi 10 5G. I do have the coral green color here. It comes also in a gray, a nice gold color. This is the 8 gig 128 gig storage variant. They do have a 12 gig 256 gig storage version and an 8 gig 256 gig storage also available depending on your region and maybe a different spec device. But it's been a while since I've used a Xiaomi device, since the Mi Mix 3 from a few years ago. And this device I did win in their giveaway that they held on Twitter. I just wanted to share my experience in unboxing this phone with you all, and then potentially a full review later on. So let's get right into it. So the unboxing is this nice kind of iridescent colored box because of this green color. Inside, we're then greeted with a nice little card that matches that of the actual box itself. And inside are various accessories. You do have a dongle for USB-C to headphone jack, and you also get a clear case, which I'll check out in a little bit. So then we are presented with the phone itself. We'll just set that aside in just a second. And then underneath you do have your USB-C charger and then the charging brick. So the charging brick will fast charge up to 30 watts. So this is not a USB-C to C, unfortunately, but because this is a European global variant, this is not using a Chinese plug. This is a European style plug. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use that here in the US, but it does support 30 watt wireless charging, power delivery 3.0 if you don't have one. Also wireless charging at 30 watts and reverse wireless charging at 5 watts. This is a really big phone. This feels very substantial. It feels solid actually in the hand. We have aluminum sides and a glass back. This feels really good. We're gonna go ahead and peel the plastic off the back here and actually get into this phone, going over all the specs and what I feel my first impressions are on this device. And there you are. There's that coral green. It does shift colors. It looks really great. Very fingerprint magnet, that's for sure. So on the back you have a standard wide angled lens, ultra wide, macro, and then a depth sensor. The wide angle sensor is 108 megapixels at f1.7 with OIS. Ultra wide is f2.4 at 13 megapixels. And then the 2 megapixel macro sensor, which I'm never going to really use. And then the depth sensor at 2 megapixels. It'll be interesting to see how the depth sensor is used later on in my photos, but the back definitely is a fingerprint magnet. This device is quite large. At the bottom you have your USB-C port. This does have dual firing speakers on the top and the bottom, and then also the SIM tray as well down at the bottom. This rocks the Snapdragon 865. Also, like I said at the beginning, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage with UFS 3.0. On the front, it is Gorilla Glass 5, I believe on the back as well. This is a 6.67 inch 1080p display. This does rock 90 Hertz. It is also Super AMOLED, so this screen is actually quite nice. It is large if that's something you're into. It also gets bright with about 500 nits of brightness, and it looks great. So we're going to go ahead and get into the actual setup real quick, and I'll be right back. So up on the front, you also do have a front-facing camera, which is that pinhole style, which has been gaining popularity as of recent. This is a 20 megapixel sensor. You also do have the capability of having the earpiece right up here too, built into the frame. Overall, the phone feels really great. The buttons, the power button, the volume buttons feel nice as well. This phone is a big boy. It is over 208 grams. This is definitely not going to be a one-handed use phone like my Pixel 4 that I've been using. This also has a massive 4,780 milliamp hour battery, so I suspect the battery life on this thing is going to be a beast. This is a clear TPU case. Actually, the back is quite hard plastic, and it has a very firm, rigid feel to it. When we slap on the case, here you can see that the back cameras are protected, and it gives a nice good little raised bump around the glass, and then the edges, sides. Since the front glass is curved, you're not going to really have that much protection on the front. On the back, there is a texture to it, a little small dot texture that when you rub your finger across on it, you will hear and feel the texture of it. Unfortunately, during the setup process, I ran into some issues where my apps did not actually transfer from both my Google account and my Xiaomi account. So what I did is I went through the whole setup and then actually updated the device. It did update to MIUI 12, which is the latest version. We'll be able to get to experience that here on this device, and that'll be nice to see. So I will work on installing all my apps and kind of go through the software a little bit with you. Setup process was pretty simple, straightforward in terms of both Android and Xiaomi. If you've used a Xiaomi device before, it does go through, get you logged in, all your additional settings, this and that, but then it takes you through a second setup with your Xiaomi account, which you can then transfer back up with your Xiaomi account. So it's a little confusing in terms of which backup you should restore from, whether it be your Google account or a Xiaomi account. I've tried it both ways and neither worked for me. So that's a bit unfortunate. So I had to pretty much go through and actually install apps almost individually. And from there, I was able to at least set up my fingerprint scanner and everything else on the phone. And once we've gotten into the phone itself, we were able to set up the fingerprint, and that was a quite easy process. It took several tries to actually get it to recognize in terms of lifting my finger over and over again, as it should. This is an optical fingerprint scanner, so it is not using any sort of infrared lights or anything like that. So it does use a camera to take a picture of your fingerprint. And so here we are on the home screen. The screen, extremely bright, looks colorful, very vivid. The colors look really great. And so far we're going to go into the settings, and phone, as you would expect, feels very smooth to scroll in because this is 90 hertz display. You can see here Xiaomi gives you an example as to the difference between 60 and 90 hertz. You're not going to be able to see that on the screen, unfortunately, but nonetheless, you are able to have access to the new MIUI 12 control panel if you want to use that. Just loads and loads of settings as you might be used to with Xiaomi. If you're not used to MIUI, then you're going to be overloaded with settings. If you want customization, MIUI is pretty much the most customized version of Android. You do have this new always on display feature that you can customize to no end, which makes the screen look great when the screen is off. So I haven't been able to spend much time in terms of taking photos with this yet, but any of the recent videos, thumbnails that you've seen posted on my channel, which you can always check out up here, the unboxings for the various soup cases for the iPhone 12. I have used this phone to record all those videos and to actually shoot the thumbnails with. So we can see here is the camera. We have your AI capability. So it's kind of weird that there is a separate mode for 108 megapixels. So by default, it doesn't use 108 megapixels to take photos. You have to go into the separate mode to actually do that. And then at that point, when you actually zoom into your photos, it'll actually say that it's using the 108 megapixels. So here, you can see that it shows that it's switched to 108 megapixels after zooming in, and that creates a little box of where you're zoomed into. 108 megapixel preview. It's just interesting. I'll have to take more photos and play around with this some more, but your traditional UI for MIUI for your camera, it looks the same. You have pro mode for both photo and video, which is awesome. And then you also have the ability for portrait modes, all these fun effects. You're able to record video even at 8K. You're also able to record at 4K 60 frames a second too. But overall, UI, everything you would expect is here. Headphone jack, unfortunately isn't here. You do have wireless charging. You have your speakers for the bottom and on the top. And overall, this feels really great. Fingerprint scanner works tremendously, and it reads everything very quickly too. It's just great. Now, because this is an imported device from the European market, US carrier compatibility is going to be iffy depending on your carrier. 5G is not going to work here, unfortunately. And also, depending on your carrier, you may not have the LTE band support either. So that's something I'm going to have to play around with. I think for T-Mobile, it is missing a good number of LTE bands, which is unfortunate. But overall, this phone feels and is a looker, that's for sure. You can see this Aurora kind of green, coral blue in the back, and the fingerprint magnet, as you can see here too. So this does support 5G, so if you're in Europe or in the China market, you'll be able to use 5G just fine on this. Your 20 megapixel front facing camera, you'd have to make sure that the front glass is clean as well. But yeah, just overall, MIUI 12 has come a long ways over the years compared to previous versions, and I think this is their best version of MIUI in a long time. There's just settings galore. There's things that if you don't like about it, you can change. I am using the Poco launcher that I've installed here. It has the Google feed on the left hand side, which is nice to see. And just settings and customization. That's really been what MIUI has been strong at, and it's something that I enjoy. I enjoy the visuals of it, and I usually sometimes when I come back, it's difficult for me to adjust. And then sometimes it's refreshing to have that sort of just beautiful transitions, the animations, just everything else in general looks appealing. But for some reason I can never stick with it, mostly because it doesn't have the bands, especially me being in Tennessee. It's more difficult for data connection, and I need that. But stay tuned for a full review, also some camera samples as I play around and have this phone with me. And also, if you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.